Yes, the reason the interest payments are so high is because the national debt keeps increasing. So the government is competing to sell debt with the private citizens. This drives up the interest rate. So if you cut back on the deficit, you actually have an amazing situation for people because you get rid of inflation and you drop the interest rates.
As of September 30th, 2024, the United States federal debt has reached a critical threshold, approaching 98% of the nation's GDP. According to the Government Accountability Office (GAO), the total federal debt stood at $35.5 trillion, an increase of $2.3 trillion from fiscal year 2023. This figure includes $28.2 trillion in debt held by the public, which rose to $28.7 trillion by December 31, 2024, and $7.1 trillion in intragovernmental debt, primarily Treasury securities held by federal accounts. Meantime, interest payments on this debt surged to $1,126.5 billion in fiscal year 2024, up $251 billion from the previous year. Under the Biden administration's policy, spending is expected to exceed revenue, resulting in persistent and widening budget deficits, causing debt held by the public to rise continuously relative to the economy. The federal government is on an unsustainable fiscal path over the long term. The GAO report emphasizes the need for difficult budgetary and policy decisions to address these deficits and reduce the nation's borrowing requirements. This raises a critical question. What concrete steps should the United States take to navigate this escalating debt crisis? To address this challenge, the United States must prioritize fiscal restraint and a fundamental reassessment of its economic and geopolitical strategies. The following measures offer a pragmatic framework. Reduce government spending and streamline operations. A primary driver of the debt crisis is excessive federal expenditure. Reducing the size and scope of government is essential. This includes eliminating inefficiencies, identifying areas of wasteful spending, and prioritizing domestic needs over discretionary international commitments. For instance, the recent decision under the Trump administration to dismantle agencies like USAID reflects an effort to curb unnecessary outflows and redirect resources inward. Such actions should be expanded through a comprehensive audit of federal programs to ensure taxpayer funds are allocated effectively. Reevaluate international financial commitments. The United States has historically borne a disproportionate burden in funding global institutions and foreign aid. Curtailing contributions to entities such as the United Nations, NATO, and specific bilateral arrangements, such as support for Ukraine, would conserve significant resources. These savings could be reinvested into domestic infrastructure, innovation, and debt reduction, aligning fiscal policy with national self-interest. Maximize economic opportunities through strategic partnerships. Beyond cost-cutting, the U.S. must actively pursue revenue-generating opportunities. This requires a shift in geopolitical and economic focus toward regions offering tangible benefits. Trade data from 2024 highlights the disparity. U.S.-Asia trade reached $6.715 trillion, encompassing ASEAN, China, Korea, Japan, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, dwarfing the $976 billion in trade with the European Union. East Asia's industrial prowess and technological innovation, home to 30% of the world's top 100 tech companies, make it a vital partner. Similarly, South America's $70 trillion in natural resources presents untapped potential for mutually beneficial development. Russia, with its vast reserves of energy, minerals, and strategic assets, offers another avenue for cooperation that could bolster U.S. economic and security interests. Reassess ties with Europe. Europe's diminishing strategic value warrants scrutiny. Lacking significant technological leadership, only 12 of the top 100 tech firms are European, and natural resources, the continent offers limited returns on U.S. investment. In contrast, alliances with resource-rich and industrially dynamic regions promise greater economic dividends. Redirecting focus from Europe to East Asia, South America, and potentially Russia aligns with a pragmatic, profit-driven foreign policy that prioritizes American prosperity over outdated ideological alignments. The fiscal crisis coincides with a shifting global landscape. The Cold War's capitalism versus communism divide has given way to a new ideological contest between progressivism and conservatism. In this context, Russia's alignment with conservative values shared by many Americans contrasts with Europe's progressive stance, further questioning the merits of traditional transatlantic ties. The United States should not expend its resources, or risk its citizens' lives, propping up a region with diminishing relevance to its core interests. The U.S. federal debt, nearing 98% of GDP, demands immediate and decisive action. By reducing government spending, reevaluating international commitments, and forging strategic partnerships with economically vibrant regions, America can chart a sustainable fiscal course. This approach not only addresses the debt crisis but also positions the United States to thrive in a rapidly evolving global economy. The time for difficult decisions is now. Prioritizing national well-being over legacy obligations is the path to long-term stability and prosperity.